Hi, everyone. And hi, Yngve. Welcome. Welcome to Busch Hall, everyone. As we wait for people to fill in, I just would first like to acknowledge that the Busch-Reisinger Museum at the Harvard Art Museums at Harvard University is situated on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Massachusetts people, and we strive to honor this relationship. I'm pleased to welcome you today to the 11th event in our Busch Hall Conversations. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, Busch Hall examines the stubborn narratives and issues around nation, race, gender, identity in German art through the lens of the Busch-Reisinger Museum and our collection. And so our monthly collections, monthly conversations on Instagram Live are generously supported by our German friends of the Busch-Reisinger Museum. So thank you to our Verein members. Hopefully some of you are joining us today. For those of you who have joined us before, you're probably used to seeing curator Lynette Roth's shining face. So I'll introduce myself. I've done a few of these. I'm Lauren Hanson. I'm the Stefan Engelhorn Curatorial Fellow at the Busch-Reisinger Museum, and I've been working with Lynette, shaping and developing this Busch Hall channel. I'm doing some more of the behind the scenes work, but I'll be joining you again in April. So enough about Busch Hall. Now I'm going to turn it over and introduce Yngve Holen. So hi, Yngve, welcome, joining us from Oslo.
Hi.
Yngve was born in Germany in 1982 and is a German-Norwegian multimedia artist who currently works in Berlin and Oslo, but it sounds like more Oslo now.
Yeah.
And he's been described as an artist who explores the concept of the post-human, and that his work uses technologies that are part of our daily lives and may in fact dictate the way we move through and function in the world. Often in his work, there are implications of the body and its subjectivity, its relationship to culture of consumption. He's also been called an installation artist. It's kind of hard to encapsulate your transmedia practice, so you can let us know if these descriptions are accurate or not. He was the recipient of many international awards, including the Ars Viva Prize in 2014-15 and the Robert Jacobson Prize in 2017. In good company there, also, recipients such as Alicia Spada and I think last year, Elmgreen and Dragset. He's had large-scale solo exhibitions, most recently including Heinzelling in Oslo. I have the catalog here with the fantastic photo of Merkel and Solberg that always makes me laugh whenever I look at this catalog cover. So although Holen takes on really serious issues in our culture, his work's also often imbued with a great sense of humor. So welcome, we're really glad to have you here today.
Thank you.
If you were to describe your practice or what kind of artist you are, do you embrace the idea of being multimedia or installation, or do you kind of resist any of those descriptors?
I always used to say I work with sculpture. That's what I say.
You consider yourself, yeah. Do you consider yourself a sculptor?
Yeah. So everybody thinks about objects, and that's good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that simplifies.
Like a research practice on the side where I publish magazines. That's what I used to say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I want to talk about two of the works of yours that are in our collection. The first is the work that you made for the Ars Viva portfolio. So there's a few recipients and they put together a portfolio. Your work for this was Made in Germany, a Made in Germany sticker. We've done a post on it before. I have actually the ones that the smaller ones that you gave to Lynette. I don't know if these were like prototypes or tests. Maybe you could share about that. What was your thought process in developing this sticker, and why, for this particular German, this prize that was developed in 1953 in Germany for young artists?
Yeah, I was already working a lot I was in Berlin at the time, and I was working a lot with German products. I was interested in kind of like, German cab colors, like just German projects in general. And stuff like, and reusing stuff, and I remember having this nice custom made stages, and they came with this like insane Made in Germany sticker with the German flag on it, and I kind of like, before that I used to scrape everything off, and I decided to keep it. So it was funny, and toyed with the idea to make my own Made in Germany sticker. So the ones that you showed are like, we designed those based on different work that I did, which is called the Hater Head screw, which has these eyes. And it was a 3D printed screw in titanium, which was kind of like a security screw with a special tool, like kind of a gnarly screw, like kind of like a closed system, not open for kind of like, yeah. You make to like close something in order not to be able to open it. And so we found out, like, I found these bumper stickers. I mean, they're actually produced in the UK, and we made those stickers, and I started just putting them on every work I made. Like, I had this sticker, and a couple. It just started like that, and I guess when I got the Art Viva prize, I was a bit puzzled because it's a prize of German industry. I was already working with washing machine parts and a lot of German car parts, like a range of stuff, and I realized like maybe that like that I've been using was German or German designed, even the CT scanners I had. But like, funny enough, you get this prize, and like felt a bit weird, like getting a prize by the German industry about making something with German industry. So I was kind of like, companies was also like never supported me before, so I was a bit like, so I felt like products for that show. I think like all the projects were there were no German products in that show, but I decided to make this sticker as big, make this dome sticker. So it's kind of like, I think it's like, how big is it? It's huge. So I made this kind of like 4 extra heads. So I made this like mega sticker for that show. I just fit it. Okay.
Well, I love the idea that Made in Germany sticker is made in the UK. Especially, so when I was researching your work, then I like fell down this rabbit hole of research about the like, where does this come from? Where does this idea made in Germany, and putting this on objects, and found that it like dates back to a Merchandise Act in 1887 in England, that was actually meant to protect British markets from foreign markets. So they started putting on like an object made in Germany, so that people would know like, oh, this is a foreign object, we don't want this, don't support this. But ironically, the objects, I guess at the time, the technologies that were coming from Germany ended up being preferred, and it became then this stamp or marker for a kind of quality, and it becomes then a very interesting history embedded in that, but also then embedded, I hope the connection's still okay, embedded in it is this idea of sort of like stereotypes and the idea of nation. And it seems like too, this idea of receiving a German prize or from German industry had very particular kind of connotations for you, that you're resisting. Does that relate in some part to your own biographical background, or?
I mean, it was kind of toying more with it for this show. I thought it fitted. Like I thought it was a funny sticker, like a gnarly sticker or something like that, or claiming something for like a production. I kind of had a couple of years where I just enjoyed kind of playing through German industry. I think that's.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes through like a lot of other work that I did around like kind of like how do car wheels look? Like why does German car wheels look different than English car wheels or American ones? And I kind of went through like all of these, industrial shapes. I guess but like at that point when I made this, I was trying to get like hold of like CT scanner covers, and I ended up like kind of like with a Siemens cover, which I also think is very distinct in the shape and quite German in its shape. But it was just time. I mean, it's hard to
sure
idea, and it's
well
sort of like the screw was like it's kind of like a gnarly sticker. It's a bit like it's like it's fun, but it's also like a bit annoying. Yeah.
Okay. So apologies, everyone. We had some connectivity issues at the beginning of our conversation. So Yngve and I have found a time to talk again, and we're going to continue our Busch Hall conversation. And I'd really like to talk to you about the work that we recently acquired for the museum, Butterfly from 2016. It's a work that's made out of sort of prefabricated forms, specifically fencing for, high security fencing that's used for prisons, for airports. And I wonder if you could, share how you selected and sourced these materials, and how you came to the idea of using something manufactured for security purposes.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely like this is an airport fence, but
Okay.
the I use is kind of like, I mean, I was doing some other research around like Frankfurt Airport, and the whole ground is fenced in, and we were like kind of like I think we were like really like at the other end of the airport, like we're kind of trying to kind of like film some planes with the heat camera, and I was kind of hanging on that fence, and there was security coming, and I think like somehow like it had a current in itself, but like
grabbed on.
More like it could like sense me hanging on this kind of fence, and within some seconds, I mean, the security was there and asking what we were doing, and it was just later, like when we were kind of like going through the imagery, where somehow the fence was part of this heat camera picture always, and I got kind of like really into that. It has this kind of woven aluminium mesh, and it was kind of like very graphic, and I thought, it had this kind of aluminium surface, and I thought of like kind of as designed as some kind of like the outside of like a laptop or something like that. So I was kind of confused about like how designed these fences were, and I contacted the company, and I was kind of interested in see if I could purchase them, and somehow they were just like almost throwing them after us. I think we didn't have to pay anything for them at the end, or very little. It was kind of like really like there was kind of open doors basically. I mean, so I think like my feeling like fencing, and and there's also like this big market. It's not just like barbed wire and like but you also like there's kind of like high-end fencing, and I kind of like started making works out of the fence basically. Yeah.
So did you visit the manufacturing, like the place of manufacture, or?
No, only from I was on their website. I was kind of trying to explain them, and it was divided in kind of like Y brackets. Like I think this is where I don't think like the airport had any like barbed wire on it. I think it was just higher, but like I think like on the Y brackets, that's where you put like barbed wire, and it had this kind of like columns, and it had like this like this feet, this kind of like import like really like heavy duty feet. I started making them in section with 2 brackets, And I think the butterfly has one bracket in the middle, and it's where I like cut off half of the fence. Yeah.
And I think the work that has two brackets has some certainly different connotations or meanings behind it. Would you remind me the title of that work and what that references?
It was made for like a show I did at Kunsthalle Basel, a solo show, and like the first room, the first gallery had like four fences on each side. The show was titled Vertical Seat, and so were the pieces. And I mean, it's kind of this thing where they try to push into aviation. It's this seat where you don't sit anymore, but you stand. So you strap yourself to a standing seat. Yeah, you could fit X amount of more people into the plane.
Is this a design intended for like commercial airlines? That's been developed.
Right, in Europe it would be Ryanair. I don't know who would do it, but it was always popping up, and in some way the show was kind of divided between a lot of topics. I think the show was for me about like division of resources and yeah, and I think like I kind of like thought kind of like there was a time where like I think like also flying from Norway there was like a lot of like people being deported on planes, even on commercial airliners, and yeah, I kind of like tried to kind of like put somehow yeah, I wanted to put that title like a vertical seat, like a throne or something like that, or something like Pomcos, but then it's just like there's basically just like there's no way to sit, or there's no way to
Describe that as a seat. And you made this work in 2016, so this is certainly a time in which, globally, but certainly in Europe, a concern for displacement of millions of Syrians and an influx of refugees into Germany and Scandinavia at this time. So I have to imagine that was probably on your mind as well.
Yeah, there was another part of that show that like was like a series like of airplane windows that had this this like I basically cut out the silhouette of a Dreamliner, like a Boeing Dreamliner. I was kind of interested in that shape, but the windows got this kind of like hand blown, like mouth blown glass pieces, like kind of like how you used to do windows before. And they were like kind of like they were like how do you say, they looked like they were like kind of like interpretations of the Nazir, which is the evil eye.
Mm-hmm.
Is and my idea around that, it was kind of the same thing. It was around like kind of like you know, the one who owns and the one who owns nothing, and the protection against like the protection against like somebody that wants you something bad, or like jealousy. And I can remember like there was an economic like piece around the evil eye, which was kind of like just more describing it like as this kind of well, like basically saying that like any kind of like society that will have like a like an unjust divide of resources, there will always become like there's always like an object that has to kind of like spring out of unjust to kind of protect against. Yeah, I don't know if I explained it right now in my English, but I thought like somehow it kind of like, yeah, it's difficult pieces, but they have this yeah, it was called window seat, like the other,
Yeah.
and there's certain X amount of like pieces together. They also call window seat, but they of course like are business class seat, and there's this certain window seats that were then like kind of like just numbered. Yeah.
So Butterfly has the one, the single support bracket, and then the two sides are that maybe resemble butterfly wings or reminiscent of that are this like aluminum woven mesh, and then on top you have poles that kind of spring out, like, and that's, you know, a space where you could run through barbed wire or an electrical charge. And I'm wondering, at what point in your work with this specific sculpture did you title it Butterfly? Like, was this an idea you had before with the form, or was sort of after seeing the final sculptural form?
Yeah, it was after. I mean, I made the vertical seats, and then I thought, oh, if I cut the fence and not, I don't limit the fence by the brackets, I would just basically have like an endless fence. And then looking at this endless fence, it also just looked like a butterfly. And somehow, like, also one part of the work was that like there is parts welded on this work that like kind of like there's squares and they go to the wall, so you would elevate the fence. I thought that was like a part of the work that is just like, and so this like really heavy thing just looked really light, but not really. It was, like, it was kind of like it made sense. I don't know, like it was. I think it was just like a comment at that time, and then it just became that. It also like with the Y bracket has this kind of like antennas too, so it's definitely like very literal and titled out shape.
That kind of the literal reference in the literal form, but that's immediate, right? Like you see the work, you see the title, you grasp that immediately. But I love also is this tension of, you know, what do we associate with the butterfly other than like beauty and freedom and the ability to move anywhere, you know, in theory, flight. And of course, this is a structure that's meant to restrict movement and really do the opposite. So I love that tension. And I know, you know, we've talked with you about how we're thinking about placing it somewhere in the museum, like perhaps high up in a stairwell. So you would be looking up at it and you'd further have that sense of kind of upward thrust, but then realizing what the material is, it really creates that cognitive tension that I think is so strong in the work.
Yeah, I love that. I saw pictures of the intended placement, and I think it would be great. I also like the structure of the staircase. And yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
We posted last week on our Instagram some images of Lynette and I looking at at Butterfly when it came into our storage facility before, you know, getting ready before we would install it. And we included a detail of that aluminum mesh in the post. And I was really struck by that too. The first time I saw the work in person rather than just in a photograph is like how beautiful and like artisan like the weave seems. You know, it really seems like you said, like a carefully thought out technological design. Yeah.
It could. I was like, it's almost like a MacBook or something. It's like maybe next year it comes in space gray and rose gold and gold. It's a bit like, yeah. It's beautiful, but also like a shame and a waste of material.
Really striking when you see that an object like this would have that kind of care of design that we might not expect for something very utilitarian and kind of restrictive and, you know, associated with restriction of the body. So I think that's a really interesting detail of the work, and I hope that people will get to see it in person and discover that soon. So it seemed I would love to know what you're working on now, and I know a lot of your past work has dealt with, you know, thinking about, like, you know, the Made in Germany, thinking about design of forms from different countries and really thinking about sort of industrial shapes and industrial forms. I wonder, is that something you're still pursuing, or have you moved into different areas now?
Yeah, still. I'm still in consumerism and industry and objects like particularly objects. I think I like working with objects that are kind of made for humans by humans. I think they tell a lot about us. Not only from a proportion level, but like how the world is designed and produced. I mean, the last thing I did was like And I did a big solo show in Beijing at the X Museum, and at the moment we're working on a catalog for that. So we're going through yeah, the documentation and making a catalog. And but I think the show was also about like, I think it was like more like maybe I could say consumerism from kind of like a like a like a like a like a one person view or something like that. It was kind of like around toys, about like kind of like food consumption, and there's a Barbie house in there, like a gutted Barbie house, just a structure. Some SUV rims made large in wood and painted in kind of like anthroposophical colors. I mean, it was kind of like weird, like in between toys and kind of like, you know, house, car, meat, kids. Had this topics kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a picture that Lynette Roth, the curator of the Busch-Reisinger Museum, had shared with me of you in your studio with these like prefab Malibu Barbie house, and I had to laugh immediately because I just spent Christmas with my 6-year-old niece who received a Malibu Barbie house for Christmas and was like helping put the stickers on and seeing the prefab design, you know, which actually was like pretty simple to put together, and it collapses in on itself. But you know, I guess I hadn't thought about sort of the prefab design of modern architecture and that being applied then into the world of toys. Was kind of.
I can show you. I have it here actually in the studio.
Sure.
Possible. There's I have like there's one version, like exhibition copy here, but it's kind of like, is this possible? Yeah, it's possible.
Oh, I see. Stickers.
So it's really just gutted. It just doesn't have anything more. Yeah. Yeah, it's all packed in. It was on this pedestal, but it's packed in now. But yeah, I mean, I kind of liked it. I don't know what to say about it. Yeah. I think I'm gonna re-show it in Milano in the month's time. I'm thinking about that today. So I like, it was kind of also like, it kind of was perfect with the X Museum because it had this architecture which was like, it was just a weird fit. It had like so many galleries, and they also had the slanted roofs, and there was this room with this meat puppet and these bronze figures, like really warrior-like bronze figures. And I always felt like they need a home, and so kind of like the Barbie house became kind of the home for them, or it's the end of the show. It has this, but also just like I like this. Yeah, sometimes it's very like, sometimes it's kind of like super intricate and re-engineering and woodworks or metalworks or like super high-tech stuff. Sometimes it's also really simple. I think like the Barbie house, it's like at the end there's nothing to it except that it's built together and then it's just like gutted from furniture, so it's just empty. So it's just a shell.
Do you think about these kinds of works using industrial or prefabricated materials? Do you think about them as a kind of ready-made or in the tradition or the history of the ready-made?
Yeah, I think like it does both. I don't know. It's sometimes you know, with the Barbie house, then like the pedestal is important. With the butterfly fence, I'm really like interested in kind of like, I think the only detail I added is kind of how the brackets are kind of fixing into the wall, and that was kind of, I remember like it was a super like conscious decision that I had to be like turn 45 degrees, so they should look a little bit more like medieval. But I remember like my idea of medieval was taken from Lego Nexo Knights at that time, because like all Lego did was just like twisting the squares so they looked medieval. And I was kind of like, I don't know if this answers the question, but like it's sometimes like what I do is hidden, sometimes it's not there, and sometimes it's quite like.
But it seems with your work then, of course, the sort of the context in an art space or art gallery or on a pedestal makes that an important shift for you, like taking that industrial material and placing it in a new context, and specifically in an art context.
Yeah, put
how that
getting fans.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. I mean, but that's that's yeah. But I don't really like. I don't really. Yeah, I think like
you don't really use the terms ready-made, or it's not necessarily something you're thinking about.
yeah, I think the division is kind of weird. I think like it's just like one should be able to just like yeah, it's already invented, it's already been there. Like why not use that? Sometimes not, and sometimes add. And
Yeah.
I think it's like yeah, and sometimes there's nothing to do to something, and sometimes there's a lot of things to do, and it's kind of like it really depends on the project or like the work or like for instance like the Barbie house was sorry.
Like for you, the exhibition and the location of that exhibition really drives a lot of your thinking.
Yeah, in this case, I think the Barbie house was really important. I think like this show was particularly like it was a lot about kind of like colors and materials. Like so, there was this meat carpet, which was kind of disgusting, but at the same time it's like seducing because it's soft and it's a beautiful carpet. The bronze figures are kind of like slightly enlarged toys and then made in bronze, but they're CT scanned and then. But I wanted them to be like toys, but not lose the quality of being toys, but kind of like, but be menacing, like. So they had weapons, so I would like look at the weapon and it's metal and it could like actually hurt you. I thought that was a kind of a good storyline for that. But then there's this materiality and the wood rims like that were then painted in anthroposophic colors was kind of like it's kind of in between the cabin and the SUV and a Waldorf school or like a Steiner school, parent driving their kids to school in an SUV or that kind of idea, like mixing stuff and
contrast, that tension. Yeah. Yeah.
all of these things. Like I think like bronze is high up as a material. I think like the wood rims are also kind of like high up and the whole show was kind of I think it was like kind of qualitative, like in that sense. And I think it needed that Barbie house. I think the moment the Barbie house came in and it was in the studio, it kind of gave everything, like it just put everything alive. Like it took it down a notch and it like elevated at the same time.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
But also like it has a great title. I like the title. It's called neuroeconomics. So it's kind of also about like kind of like what kind of economic choices we make and where it drives the world, and the show being about resources, I thought that was kind of like so it has something that I think the butterfly fence has too. It has something like
and has this undercurrent of some kind of critique of our consumerist society, or that's kind of poking at it with sometimes a wink and a sense of humor. So yeah, I'm really thrilled that we have more of your work in our collection and we can have it on view, and that some audiences in the US will become even more familiar with your work. But we've gone on for a while now, so I really appreciate your time. And I just maybe you could let our audience know where they can learn more about you and your work, or see your work in the coming months, years.
yeah, I'm doing a show in May 3rd. I think it opens like in Milano at Kaleidoscope Space in Milano.
Soon, yeah, in a couple of months, yeah.
Then I think in the autumn I do a solo show at Gallery Neu in Berlin. This is the two projects I'm working on.
Great.
And then there's yeah, but this is like and the book, the book from the X Museum show titled Foreign Object Debris.
Okay, foreign object debris.
That will come out on Distance in May. So these are the things I'm working on. Yeah.
I'll keep an eye out for that. And thank you so much, Yngve, for taking the time. And I hope you have some great time working in your studio in Berlin, getting ready for that show. But thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Super. Thank you too. Yeah.